Hello, we're back. Alvin doesn't want to throw up. He's been worried about this all day. He's been worried that as soon as he gets on.
Yeah, and I'm like, all right, let's not throw up. And we're just like,
And I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He's literally said this for like 3 days. Every time I see him, he's like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna throw up. I'm gonna throw up."
It's a nerve-wracking moment. You're going to be
usually do this.
announcing your game for the first time. Has it seen like light of day at all?
No.
So you've been working like in a vacuum with nobody having seen, except for probably, I'm sorry, I forgot his name already.
Hachi.
Hachi. I'm so worried about pronunciation. I'm horrible. I butcher every Japanese name. But you're here to announce.
Dot Matrix here. Well, actually, I mean, should we do introduction?
Yeah,
Well,
we
yeah,
should.
what do you guys do?
No one
What do
really
you- what's your
Exactly.
capacity?
No one knows
Anyway.
them.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm Alvin of Dot Warrior Games.
Okay.
A small indie team and a team
Have you guys
Yeah, I was
done
gonna
other
say
games?
a
Tokyo.
very small indie team.
in Tokyo and been in Japan for about 3 years because I love Japanese games. I used to work for a Japanese game company and I made a game on my own called Block Legend and I released it. It did well enough that I was able to go indie full time. So yeah, and then recently I met Hachi-san of Nigoro 256 Graph, and they're a Japanese art studio with a ton of experience. I guess you could do a 紹介する
紹介してくださいね、自分の会社。
自己紹介。
はい
会社
そう
アルビンと一緒にゲームドットマトリックスヒーローを作ってるアートを担当しています。ニゴログラフの八幡と申します。ハッチです。
So you pretty much said exactly what he said, which
Okay.
is, yeah, I'm working with Alvin to create Dot Matrix
and
Zero,
well.
and then we have an art company, 255 Graph said.
Yeah, but Hachi, he's got about 10 years of experience. Worked at Sega, Brownie Brown. Worked on games like Sword of Mana or Guilty Gear, a bunch of stuff. And, yeah, and so he used to work AAA game studios as well. But recently, he went and he went indie, sort of started his own company of like 5 people, and they do a lot of pretty high-profile work for a lot of companies I'm not allowed to talk about. But recently,
They did Witcher 3, is what you're saying? Blood.
I can't say anything.
Is this
but
Blood?
yeah.
Is it Bloodborne? Is that you did the
That's-
Bloodborne DLC? No? Okay, sorry.
But yeah, they recently worked on the Japanese version of Rogue Legacy, actually.
Oh,
which is pretty
nice.
cool. Yeah.
Very nice.
So, yeah, a lot of like random. Well, yeah,
You're
they're
from Boston?
Yeah, which
Okay.
has a pretty vibrant indie scene. I came to Tokyo, and it's a little different, I guess. But
So I think
We managed.
I was pared back a bit there because to me it's all about presentation. I want to go to a shot of Dot Matrix Hero, because that's what that's right.
I guess.
But Ben was worried, I think, for Japanese manners. Like I should probably have spent more time on them first.
That's all. You know what? You're from Canada. I know the rules
We're pretty
fly
rude
by
there.
the seat of your pants. It's all right. You're 3 beers into it, so
To
it's
me,
all good.
no, I'm only 2 in. I want my 3rd beer.
3rd beer, please.
Can I have a 3rd beer?
I think he gets better on the 4th beer, so let's just
It's the
keep
4th
the
beer where he
beer
starts to
train rolling.
plateau, and then about 6th or 7th, you're going to see the real show.
But I want to talk just 30 seconds about Alvin.
Thank you.
And it's super impressive for him to come all the way over to Japan. He really likes the Japanese aesthetic. I think he dials into it here with this game. If you can, tell us 1 minute brief spiel about what this title is.
You guys want beer?
Yeah.
ビール飲むんですか？
少し。
Just a little bit. A little
Because
bit.
I'm gout.
He's got gout.
He's got
Gout.
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 Is that catching? Should I?
赤いワイン大丈夫ですか？
そっちの方がいいね。
赤いワインをお願いします。赤いワイン。そう。はい。
I'm sorry. That's tough.
I'm allergic to beer, so it's similar.
That's
Maybe
right.
Not, I don't know.
really at all.
You have to power through, man.
Allergies and gout, and I don't know if you can power through gout necessarily, but I appreciate you trying to be positive. Keep it positive.
Once again, my excuse for drinking at 10 a.m.
Awesome.
is that at home it is now like 8 p.m. probably, something like that, and I've got jet lag, so this is
All good.
to me it's all good. I've been drinking since last night.
みんな乾杯しましょう。
Kanpai. Cheers.
Kanpai.
But let's see this.
Let's talk about Dot Matrix Hero and what it is.
So basically, this is kind of a cross between game dev story and Binding of Isaac, sort of.
So if anybody isn't familiar with game dev story, it's kind of like a simulator where you own your own indie studio.
Yes. So this game is basically about a bedroom indie dev, working on this small JRPG title type of game. He's like working really hard to make this game, and of course it's not finished, and So it's interesting. You can actually, develop the game. Different features. Like, all right, I'm gonna go debug it, or go for a walk, or all these different things, or even drink some beer and go program.
Nice.
Which,
And
maybe your bug count increases a little bit.
Oh, right.
Anyway.
So you drink beer, so you're maintaining. It's almost like you're playing a little bit of The Sims too. You're maintaining his life.
Somewhat, yes. But this part is actually only half of the game.
Okay.
I mean, so anyway, so you're making this game, right? And the character has a bunch of different weapons you can use, like swords, or stages you can go to, or even monsters you can fight. So then you go, you develop, the system's like, bow and arrow has been implemented and such and so forth. This is kind of weird explaining this before actually getting into the game.
Just go
but
right
yeah,
to it and jump
so,
in.
I mean, yeah.
So there's going to be the sort of simulator form of it, but then he can jump into his own game.
Yes, so the game is also about the main character of this this story, the hero of this unfinished game, and so he's the hero of this unfinished game, but it's still buggy and and so you play as a hero. I guess we can follow it. And it's like it's glitching out. So yeah, you play as a hero. So think of if Tron or say Wreck-It Ralph took place within the realm of Dragon Quest or Final Fantasy on like Famicom or something like that. And the game, it's basically a twin-stick shooter type of style. I'm a big fan of Binding of Isaac, Nuclear Throne. I'm also a fan of Japanese dungeon crawlers like Dark Cloud or Cladoon actually. So it's basically
when you invoke those titles' names, you just hint to me that this is procedurally generated and roguelike.
Yes, and thing is, no one saw that. Depending on depending on what the developer will do, more things will pop up in the game. Like, the biggest feature of a roguelike game is like items and content, stuff like that, and you're continually developing that as you go along, and so we have all these different weapons, and depending on how you use the analog stick, the controls will change. Like, I died actually, but we can try again. But yeah.
Aren't you supposed to be good at this game?
Hey, I haven't balanced it yet. So as I said, sorry, Twitch. It's this is about 10%, 15. I mean, we only started.
Twitch is pros only. Didn't you hear?
Developing this seriously within the past 2 months. So yeah. And it's also a little bit hard to play and talk at the same time as well. But,
Oh, really? Tell me more.
Oh,
What's
yeah,
it like
totally.
to play and talk and host a show at the same time?
Oh.
It's just my job.
Shouldn't you be drinking that beer as well?
Oh
Yeah.
yes, I have four hands. Yes.
That's right.
Here, we can do this.
Okay.
No, we can't.
Oh, come on.
Oh.
Okay, that's good. Yeah.
No,
Soundfinding
what
is
I
a
think
little
is
buggy.
great though that you guys done on this campaign, and we're spiritually also keeping that mantle alive, is that there's lots of ways that a bigger indie can give to a smaller indie, and we did multiple call-outs. Obviously, tons of different indie developers gave call-outs to Yiga, and just sharing it back and forth.
Well, that's the Kickstarter atmosphere, right?
It is.
That's how it kind of everybody's pushing the same rock up the hill, and it's interesting to see it in Japan. Because we were talking about the challenges of indie studios in Japan earlier, and it seems as though people like Inafune and Iga seem to be now the new sort of the four leaders of this new era in Japan. Are they you're American.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah.
for young Japanese indie developers, is this are Iga and Inafune an inspiration? Does it make them want to branch out and get to make independent titles?
Somewhat. I mean, it depends. I mean, they're definitely an inspiration, but also, so I also run a monthly indie dev meetup in Tokyo called Tokyo Indies, and so people can go, show up, present their game that they're working on, and I get to meet a lot of different Japanese indie developers as well, and Mighty Number 9, shitemasu ka? Do you know Mighty Number 9 or stuff? And they're like, not really, actually. Yeah, so it's pretty tough to say.
I'm gonna try to play this.
Oh, we can switch back to us. I mean, I guess. But
I'm gonna debug a thing.
I mean, this is more placeholder UI for
And
now.
all.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't
I'm gonna
really
do all the
It doesn't
things.
really do anything right now.
Right.
But
All right. Well,
Yeah.
I'm doing them anyways. So
You're gonna make him throw up.
I bet.
Stop, Fraser.
So
You're gonna make him throw up.
what I did, since that's a placeholder right now, but all those things that you like mark off to do in your personal life, do they have an immediate effect on the game that you go in to play then?
Yes,
That's the idea.
So the game,
Whoa.
I see enough your
So you
left,
can-
like you get a rank, right?
Oh,
so
okay.
like the current state of the game, so to speak, like alpha or like pre-alpha.
So
And
every
then-
time you compile, it's like a new surprise of like what effect you've had on your own world.
Yes, like for example, all those developer actions.
Twin
they-
stick. I use both. There.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
Yeah, they have a.
Where's my sword? Where'd it go?
Oh, you have a stamina bar, which is a
Oh,
little not
I'm using
balanced,
it's
yeah.
like
a little bit
Bloodborne
of
or
of Dark Souls.
Dark Souls
Oh,
feel
sort
to it
of,
too.
Yeah.
You suck
Obviously,
pretty
that's
hard
the-
at this.
Yeah, it is pretty hard.
Give
but-
it back. Give it back to the indie developer.
So all those developer
got this.
actions actually, they have a percentage of like how, if they'll succeed or not. And things if they succeed, you'll either get like a buff. But if you fail, like depending on how the developer is like feeling, if you like say you overworked them too much, you'll get like, oh no, like a bug came out like unoptimized, which is like kind of like a stats effect, like paralyzed. So it'll be moving like slow when you're actually like playing the game.
Right.
Things like that.
But you want
it's
to work
buggy
them,
code.
But
A
you
little
want to
bit.
work them hard because you want to ship. Right?
Yes.
Like the idea is to get the game to completion so that show
Yes.
us what the actual gameplay looks like.
You'll never ship.
Yeah. As the lead programmer on this, this game is basically my worst nightmare.
Right, right.
It's like oh shoot.
So the whole idea behind your character, you want to treat his life well so that he gets to the point where he's ready to actually make profit off of the game that he's been working on for so long.
Somewhat, yeah.
Is that like the end game? Is like is the end boss a publisher or like?
I mean, really, the game is more so about the hero of the story. Because can you imagine you live in a world where everything's like not complete, and you're like, oh man, I'm gonna go
Sounds
defeat the
like
last
my
boss
life.
or anything, and
So
but he can't because the game isn't finished.
you
And so
consider
that's,
the hero to be different, like the guy in this game, to be different from the guy in the external world? That they're not the same person? Or is that
think
a
of
spoiler?
think of like Wreck-It Ralph or like Toy Story, right? Like
Right.
people don't know that these characters are coming alive. This like developer he goes to sleep at night and all of a sudden it comes alive by itself and he wakes up like, whoa, I didn't fix that, but okay.
Can the
sure, let's
developer
get-
have relationships?
I mean,
Will
it
that
could be
have an effect?
possible.
Will sex have an effect on how good the game is? Like,
I haven't thought about that
Pixel
yet.
sex,
Okay.
pixel sex is totally underrated.
he's tried to sell me on the fact that he doesn't think about sex. He's like, I haven't thought about that.
Oh, I mean, I haven't thought about like
You have no idea how hard this guy works. He probably hasn't.
It's just
He's always Facebook messaging being like, yeah, I didn't sleep again tonight because I got to do this. So-
or so I say. Yeah.
woman, get off me! I'm developing a game. So I'm.
Balance is a little difficult right now.
What is the capacity that you've worked on this?
ハッチ様はこのタイトルでどういう関わり方してはりますか？
基本的にはグラフィックアートの部分なんですけどゲームデザインもねたまにアルビンとアイデア出し合ってこうしたら面白いんじゃないのってやってますね。
So he does like the art, Alvin does the programming, and they both kind of share responsibilities on the planning and the overall game ideas. And I found this to be very interesting in so much as there are a lot of roguelikes. They're super popular, certainly with Twitch and streaming becoming a bigger thing now. That's awesome. But finding the Japanese aesthetic and mixing the two together, that's cool, because I also like the Japanese aesthetic. So that's one of the things that makes it a very unique game, yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned your inspiration. What did you guys play growing up? What's your favorite game?
One game.
One game, if you had to choose.
River City Ransom.
River City Ransom?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a good
And
one.
it did have an inspiration on this title?
Not really.
At all?
Well, I mean, it's either that or like Dragon Quest. I'm just like,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
obviously.
I
a huge
saw
fan of-
when you're compiling, there's a brief image of what looks like maybe a very old Dragon Quest game.
I didn't take that from anywhere.
Okay.
Didn't happen.
And
一番好きなタイトル、インスピレーションになってるタイトルは何ですか？
今開発中にそれとも
今まで
レジェンド・オブ・マナ
Legend of Mana. That was his favorite.
アートスタイル素晴らしい
He really loved the art style.
is that
Secret-
Secret of Mana in America?
Secret of Mana?
I think.
No, Legend of Mana on PlayStation.
Oh, okay,
Did we
okay.
have that in
Yeah.
stateside?
Yeah,
そ
sure,
れ
it came
それ
out.
がすごく好きで、ブラウニー・ブラウン
And that's why I joined Brownie Brown, because they developed that game.
What is Brownie Brown?
It's a developer composed of Square Enix.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
So
How much time do we have left to talk to these guys?
5 minutes.
We have some more time. We could see more gameplay if you have more to show.
Oh, that's. I
Do
mean,
we have 5
he
minutes?
seems so nervous to
it's
show
about-
his game because it's in an early stage.
I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Right.
It's like.
What's your projection for when we're going to actually be able to put this in our hands?
Actually, Bit Summit is next month. I'll be showing that off there. I mean, at least one full playable level.
Bit Summit's here in Tokyo.
In Kyoto.
Oh.
actually.
Kyoto.
Yes.
It's July 2nd, 11th to 12th, correct?
Yeah.
So again, the Japanese indies they have a very difficult time because there's lots of things that they're up against. They don't have nearly as many opportunities as perhaps in the West that other Western indies do. And obviously, as Iga said, just not even having the right platform, so to speak,
Right.
to really stand on their own 2 feet makes it a challenge. But Bit Summit is going to be something which over 100 studios come together, lots of indies. It'll be a celebration of that. So hopefully, while you're there, you'll get even more eyeballs on it and
Yeah.
a lot of excitement.
I mean, thing is, like in Japan, there's so much like game developer talent that I feel is a little bit wasted here. Like, you know,
Right.
like
Nyan
and
is
they're-
signaling to me.
Oh no, just you were asking about Brownie Brown.
Brownie Brown, yeah. Diane's telling us.
They developed Mother 3.
Never heard of it.
What?
Yeah, they were the developers.
Mother 3.
And yeah, I mean, the world obviously has like an interest in Japanese-made games. I mean, like look at like Iga's Kickstarter or Infune's Kickstarter, and even me, I'm just like when I first approached Hachi, I was like, oh my god, your art's like amazing. Like let's make a game together, and then we did. Like that's
I've
essentially
been
how it
familiar
works.
with the indie community in America. Like it's got that family atmosphere. As Iga mentioned, that there are limited the ability to actually just distribute because of how less prevalent PC gaming is here in Japan. Does that mean that indie developers maybe look more towards the West as their demographic, as their potential market?
Unfortunately, yes, I would
Yeah.
say. In terms of, it also depends on what platform I guess you're releasing on as well.
Right.
But usually it's at least, well, even so, I guess with my numbers, it's always been, I guess, US first and then Japan. But
Right.
yeah, but the interest is still definitely there.
I've
I
always
feel.
been
Yeah.
interested whether, if developers in Japan, when they make a game, whether they're thinking about the West or if they're thinking about Japanese gamers, what they want. Because you were telling me, Ben, that mobile gaming is becoming very popular in Japan,
It's
And
really the only thing now.
Yeah.
and that
it's
console gaming is kind of on
yeah.
a little bit of a decline.
Konami leaving the console space was not a shock to me. So,
Right. It wasn't a shock, but yeah, it
And-
probably for some people kind of is sad though too.
Well, certainly if you're a developer that wants to do like a console game, which is why people supporting this Kickstarter, what they're doing is saying, hey, Japanese developers, you may think that you have no options and that you have to make a mobile game. And certainly Iga-san was in that very same situation. But you have tons of fans in the West. We will support you if you give us what we like and really work with us. And that's what he's done. And obviously we made history. So
Yeah. And is there a future for Kickstarter, for Dot Matrix here on Kickstarter, any funding to?
Well, I'm not really Iga or anyone.
Right.
else, so I'm just like.
Is that daunting? Is it daunting to see a mega Kickstarter like this one, Bloodstained, has been so extremely effective because of the name behind it? Does that make it seem does it feel to you, not having developed the legacy of Castlevania, that you don't even have a chance to fund through Kickstarter?
Through Kickstarter, well, basically, yeah. I mean,
what
well, the
about
thing is,
Hyper Light Drifter?
Hyper Light. Well, yeah. I mean,
It
as
didn't
I
have a famous person behind it, but it had an aesthetic that people got behind.
yeah,
That
I feel
had
like, I
Bo
mean,
Bliss,
my
in
biggest
it.
my biggest belief is you should let the game speak for itself. I mean, but as I said before, it's this game is still in development. I wouldn't write it off I wouldn't write it off completely, but
I was gonna say, I would not
that's-
write it off.
Yeah, that's
No,
how
it
most.
looks really cool, and I love the concept of it.
Thanks.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think that we should move on because we have another EGA achievement.
I'm the host.
I'm sorry.
We have another Egan achievement
Yes!
now! The only reason he knew that is because he saw Becky off camera before I did. All right, so what's the Egan achievement anyways? We have a few. We have 5 total, and we're meeting them at random intervals.
Different times. We've already met 2.
Which one have we met and which one do we want to
Nyan,
do?
you're the one that's on EGA Achievement Watch. I've been told that there were 2 others that were cleared.
There's 2 that we've met.
Certainly, we cleared the tweet.
Thank you first so much, Alvin.
Thanks so much.
Hachi.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you. So we're going to, I guess, put Iga on the spot.
I'm gonna
with-
say we've cleared the EGA Die Monster tweet, and we're gonna do that.
Oh, okay, that one's easy.
Got the dialogue tweet and